Okay, I think we are ready to kick off this session. By the way, hello everyone. I'm Rajesh, head of data engineering and analytics at Amazon, and I'm truly honored to be part of this Gujarat Hackathon learning series. And thanks for having me here. Welcome to the future of business analytics, where data doesn't just sit there. Data actually talks back. Today, I'll be walking through a topic where we are going to discuss about basically how we are redefining and how we think about data access and business analytics, which is nothing but like conversational intelligence at scale. Like how do we architect trust and intelligence and build scalable and AI-driven data platforms at an enterprise level? Of course, we are flipping the BI on its head, and no more drowning in dashboards or like decoding SQL errors or like taking those long coffee breaks because you're fed up with writing thousands of lines of code. Just ask your data a question like you would ask your colleague and get answers. I know it sounds like magic, but it's no more magic. Let's pull that curtain down, and I'm sure we are already in that era where we can convert this magic into reality. I see a lot of like young and brilliant minds here, like data lovers, spreadsheet warriors, and SQL whisperers and whatnot. Like Python Panda enthusiasts. Take this hackathon as a chance to turn your raw data into real impact. Whether you're wrangling with your first data set or optimizing a neural network, you should be part of this movement and drive action. Cool. Being said that, let's actually jump into the topic that we are going to, like discuss here today. Moving on to the next slide, right? I'm sure, like many of you would be super familiar with this picture here. It's basically somebody, like drowning in data, and that's what is happening today. Every system it is producing a lot of data, like from a sensor, like there are tools with sensors which produce petabytes of data every day. So what do you make out of this data, right? We have seen that data is just like like oil. Like is your oil ready to use? No, unless until it is refined, it is not ready to use. The same problem we are facing with data today. We are swimming in data but starving for insights, because the traditional BI tools, right, whatever we have, it requires some knowledge. It requires technical knowledge. Like either you should be able to code in SQL, or you are able to code in Python, or you should be able to build your dashboards in Tableau, Power BI, or QuickSight, or whatnot. So all this traditional BI infrastructure, it requires a specialist in order to like interact with the data and bring back an insight. And most decision makers, right, in business, they can't afford to wait days for a report to learn. The reason is the speed of business change, right? It's super fast in this generation. So you can't wait for somebody to build a report for 3 days, and by the time you get the data, the decision that you have to make is already passed. So we are looking for a place where you are able to ask a question and get data instantly. So imagine, instead of building pivot tables, you could simply ask, why did sales drop last week, and get an instant plain English answer. That's not the future, actually. That is happening now. Let's talk about how that is happening and what kind of technicalities are required. So what is enabling this change? What is enabling a change from like writing code or building a dashboard to get an insight to like where you are able to go ask a question and get an insight? What's changing is basically the rise of natural language interfaces. So what's a natural language interface? An NLI is nothing but which can convert a user text, into like a machine understandable language, and bring back that result from a machine, and convert that into again a user understandable language. That's the role of an NLI. So with tools like, obviously most of you would have already used a lot of like GPT tools, like tools like Chat GPT. Users can ask simply, what were Q2 sales trends in Midwest, and get an instant visual response, so which is super huge. So it kind of democratize the data access, which means earlier only a data analyst, a BI engineer, or a data engineer would directly talk with data. But now a business, like a business user, like a vendor manager or a supply chain manager or a program manager, they can also interact with data. So that's what democratizing data access mean, and it is super super important. And this is not just a technology change; it's a cultural change. Like we are moving forward, moving towards like a self-service analytics for everyone. And this is what is evolution of BI. And NLIs are like giving your entire company a personal data analyst, one that doesn't take any coffee breaks. So that's what we are going to learn today. And why conversational AI? Like, why do we need conversational AI in the first place? Of course, it lowers the barrier to entry, which means anybody can ask a question, no training required, because you are simply, like asking data a question as if you ask your colleagues. And second, it is super fast. No more waiting for somebody to build a dashboard or develop a query or, like write a Python model. It kind of instantly gets back to you with an answer. And third, it drives engagement. Of course, when people can explore data freely, they ask better questions and then they get better answers. So, lastly, it humanizes the data. It feels like more natural and intuitive, increasing the adoption. So, there is a prompt AI where like system can typically begin with a prompt, and the user can input a question that guides the model response. And then there are asynchronous. These are all very asynchronous, which means you don't have to be there at any time, to ask a question and get an answer. It can be scheduled, it can be automated, or you can use workflows to like generate these insights on a timely basis or whatnot. And it is very very engaging because AI driven interfaces often stimulate conversational human like interactions, so that keeps the users very interesting, because you are asking questions and you're getting more insights, and then you can ask follow up questions. And of course it is cross channel. AI like systems can operate across multiple platforms: web, mobile, Slack, email, etc., and whatnot. And they are of course very adaptable, and they are very cost effective. Moving on to like a high level overview, like what does actually like an NLP looks like how does this conversational intelligence looks like. The key role of course is an NLI, like natural language interface. What does a natural language interface does? It interprets what the user is asking, and then it interprets that into like a machine understandable language, and then it maps it connects to the data mapping, which connects to the right query that the user is asking from the right data set and the right fields. And then of course explainability is super super important. Say for example, you asked a question like, okay, hey, what are my top sales in the consumer electronics department, and your conversational AI has generated a response. Okay, but now what, like how do you know it has generated the right response? You need to understand what did it do in the back end, right? So that's where explainable AI plays a key role. Like when you're building a conversational AI, you need to include how did it come up with that answer, like what kind of tables did it interact with, or what kind of existing data sets did it interact with, so that explainable AI can justify why your conversational bot is telling what to do. Or like what did it respond to you, like what kind of response it gave to you. And of course security layer is super important. It's not like anybody can simply go and like ask a question and get an answer, right? Like everybody needs to have the right access, protecting sensitive data. So that's where security layer also comes into picture. And each and every component plays a crucial role in delivering fast, secure, and reliable insights. This is just a high level design overview, but if you take a look at this, this is what plays a key role in the entire like conversational AI bots. So what is RAG? RAG is nothing but retrieval augmented generation. So what does it mean basically? Anybody in this room who knows what RAG is? Like who can explain like what RAG is? That's okay. I know it's already evening there, so let me take a stab at it. Okay. So RAG, right? What does it does is basically, if you take a look at this picture here, let me like use a pen or something. Give me 1 second. Okay, take a look at this. And the first very beginning step is all the documents that you have, which is nothing but your enterprise level data sets. Okay, so all the data that you have, it is chunked and it is sent into an embedding model. So what is an embedding model? Embedding models are nothing but it would convert all your text into embeddings, like machine understandable, like chunks. And there are, in the market, there are so many embedding models, and I personally, I work with like Amazon, so I use Amazon Titan, which is one of the like successful embedding model out there. So what Amazon Titan does is it breaks down all of your documents or tables or whatnot, like whatever the files that you provide, it kind of breaks down into embeddings, and those embeddings are stored in a vector DB. So what is this vector DB? Vector DB is nothing but to store your embeddings, and what it does is it will store all the relevant embeddings together as a cluster. So say for example, if you have files around sales, inventory, profitability, or P&L, or dimensional data, all different kind of data sets. Okay, now they are all converted into embeddings, and in the vector DB, what it does is it kind of clusters all the relevant like data files into one group. So all sales information is in one place, all P&L information is in one place, all inventory information is in one place, something like that. So why it does that clustering is it is super important. That is what is called as semantic search. So when you prompt, when a user is asking a question, again that question goes to the embedding model first. A lot of people think it directly goes to LLMs or whatnot. No, it actually goes with when the user is asking a question, it goes to an embedding model, and that embedding model has to parse that question, and then the parsing is actually sent into the vector DB. So now from the vector DB, it will find the closest cluster. Okay, if is user asking about selection, or is user asking about sales or inventory, and then it will find the previously stored data in the vector DB and gets the right match from the vector DB. And now that vector DB output is passed into an LLM, where the LLM would actually convert that again back to user understandable language and generate as a response, which is your final result. So that's what this whole RAG, like framework is, like retrieval augmented generation framework. Of course, this is a traditional model, traditional RAG. Now, in the existing, like technology, we have something called agentic RAG. Like, what is agentic RAG basically? So LLMs, right? They're very smart, but at the same time, they can hallucinate so much, which means they can get confused when there is so much data. The more the data, the more like hallucination an LLM can do. Actually, the reason, say for example, I went and asked a question saying, "Hey, I want sales and inventory data from like 2024." So now my LLM, what it would try to do is there are two different files, a sales table and like an inventory table. So two different kind of clusters within your vector DB. Now the LLM would try to go at one shot, like the traditional RAG, right? It doesn't. What it does is it will just do a one pass, like get execute one query and get one result and send it to the user. So when you are asking metrics across multiple files, there is a very good chance it can go write incorrect SQL in the scenes behind and try to generate incorrect results when it is trying to combine data from multiple files. So that's where agentic RAG plays a very like key role. What does agentic RAG does is it can break down user query into multiple queries. Oh, this user is asking actually. What is this? The user is asking sales and inventory. So I need to break this into two different queries, and then it will find the right vector DB, like the right clusters within the vector DB, and then like pulls the right information, then consolidates the output of that vector DB into one output, and then generate it to like end users. So that's the best part of agentic RAG, where, but of course it is costlier operation, because earlier your compute is using only for one query, but now you are using compute resources for two queries. So you need to design your like agentic RAG framework such that there is no delays, but that still like it is optimizing your compute resources and still like able to perform best for the front end. Looks like there's a question here. Give me 1 second. Let me take a look. The embedding you mentioned, does the position of that particular cluster from VectorDB undergo mathematical operations in LLM to give our final results? That's the position of the final particular cluster from VectorDB. Oh yes, exactly. So all your the VectorDB has a lot of clusters. So this embedding model, it would parse the end user question and then find, it does a semantic search on the vector db and tries to find what is the right cluster or a relevant cluster that can answer or that best suits the end user question. And then the mathematical operation or the transformation or whatever, like it could even be a sql generation on a database or whatnot. So everything happens only on that one portion of the cluster that is relevant to the user question, not the entire vector DB. Yeah. And that goes to the final results, of course. Yeah. Thanks for the question. And let's talk about what's next here. We talked about RAG framework and yeah, conversational AI. What all can your conversational AI can do? Of course it can ask, you can like simply ask a question, and it can generate you like and what kind of like questions can you ask? It could be a service request like, hey, can you help me? Or it could be an information request like, I have a question. Or it could be like I need to like get this done, like I need to send these emails, or I want to like see this request, like can you show me 2024 sales? Or you can also even ask a decision request like, hey, what should I do, because the weather forecast is telling that there is going to be a snowstorm and I have this raw material at my warehouse, so what would you suggest? Or it could also, you can also simply ask, let me know when this would occur, like when my week over week sales go down by like 10% or 20%, whatnot. So you can ask all different kind of requests, starting from a service request to a decision making request or an action based request. And your AI is super intelligent to understand what does this person want, or what language are they speaking, or what are they referring to, places or people, or what kind of request is this. Or it can also look at sentiment analytics, like is this user happy, or are they like upset, looking at your historical conversations or the tone of user prompt that you're generating, whatnot. Like it is so intelligent to understand or build even sentiment analytics. So yeah, conversational AI is not only for asking a question and getting an insight. You can actually do a lot more. You can even like make ask AI to like make a decision for you, or ask AI to build a roadmap for you, or predict what's next for you. When I say for you, of course it's all about your data. Yeah. So moving on to the next one. Of course, like every cutting edge technology, it's really good to hear all the good things, but nothing comes, without a roadblock. It's not smooth sailing all the way. Number one challenge with conversational AI is query ambiguity. So what does query ambiguity mean? So you can go and put a prompt saying, hey, walk me through what are my top performers last week. But how does your AI should interpret it? Like, what is top performing mean? Is it revenue? Is it growth? Or is it margin? Or is it like your profit? What does top performance mean? So that's where, how do you address this challenge is context aware follow ups. So when user asks a question, the AI should be generating context aware follow ups, asking, hey, you are asking me high performance, but what are you referring here? Are you looking for top products with high sales, or are you looking for like top customers who generated high sales, like whatnot? So that context aware follow ups is what is going to change the resolve the query ambiguity. And secondly, context alignment. Say, for example, you can use a term called accounts, or you can say customers. Whereas your CRM system inside the industry, right, like where the AI is connected to, that can have a term like entities. So here, customers, accounts, entities, all of these are referring to the same thing, but with different terminology. So context alignment again can is a roadblock. Your AI should be trained on your metadata to better understand the entire business terminology, like what kind of different words can refer to the same meaning and like same entity. So it is able to like break down the user prompt in the right fashion. And number three, of course, scalability. Can your system handle 10,000 simultaneous queries, at a time? Of course, it depends on the compute power. It depends on your caching, like power, whatnot. So, of course, like caching can address this again, but where the frequently asked queries are, like stored in the cache for, speed purposes. And then, of course, we already talked about explainability, how explainability can, like build trust. Explainability is nothing but reasoning, like the reasoning behind generating a response. So if, say, for example, if your AI says fire the top salesperson, can you simply go and say, okay, yeah, I trust the algorithm and I'll go fire this person? No, right? It also have to explain why it is making that recommendation. So that's what is super important. Okay. And finally, ethical risks and bias in data. There was once a time, like there was what is this hiring. The HR team was using AI in a top Fortune, like 100 companies, and the AI suggested only men resume for a particular job. The reason, there was bias in the historical data. Historically, if you look at like last 20 years or like 15 years of data, it had more like men resumes which were picked up for that particular job. So the AI, it went into bias because it's not the mistake of AI, right? It's just the data, so it would just rely its decisions on data. So it kind of decided, okay, male is the right person for this job, and decided to only like shortlisting the male resumes. So that's where like an ethical engineer plays a key role to come and like help resolve that bias in AI models. So that would like provide equal opportunities to everybody. Yeah. And moving on to the next slide. So, how to measure success? Of course, you're building all these bots and whatnot, and they're expensive. It comes with a lot of compute cost. It comes with a lot of cloud resources and whatnot. So, how do you measure the success of that? Like, are you investing right or not? Number one, adoption rate. Are people actually like using it? How many people are using it? How frequently are they using it? That is definitely one of the biggest success metrics. And then number two, time to insight. Are decisions being made really faster? Say, for example, your director has to ask a question and wait there for 5 to 10 minutes. Is that a good experience? No, definitely not. You're losing trust. Your director is never going to come back and use your tool again. Rather, he would just rely on a PDF report or an Excel report where he can simply open and look at the numbers immediately. So, time to insight is another critical metric. You need to ensure you have the right, you have the right speed to generate the response. And number three, query accuracy. How often does your AI get it right? And this, how to improve this query accuracy. You need to have feedback mechanisms where when the AI generates a response, you need to take a look at that and tell, okay, hey, this is like this is what not I was expecting. Like you need to correct this, or you need to like do something else. When you prompt that feedback has to go as part of reinforcement learning back to the model. So reinforcement learning plays a super crucial role in ensuring your outputs are getting more accurate over the period of time. So that's query accuracy. You need to definitely like measure that. And bias detection rate, of course, can we catch and fix bias before the harm is done? So how do you measure like bias? And compliance, does your model has the right governance, right regulatory standards? Is it looking at the right, is it applying right security protocols? Only the right people should be accessing the right amount of data. The data that your CEO or a VP should be able to access, should not be able to, a vendor manager or supply chain manager should not be able to access the similar level of data. So how do you ensure that governance is in place is super important. So measure not just the use, but the impact, like the speed, quality, trust in decision making. So that what defines the, success of your model. And what's next? Like what is the future? Where are we actually heading into with this whole technology? It's nothing but we are trying to automate what humans can do today. Like say humans can write a query, okay, and now you are automating that part with AI. But what is next, right? Think about like voice first analytics. Like say where you can simply go ask Alexa, like, hey Alexa, what are my sales for last week? And it should be able to tell you anything, even hands free. Like you can simply ask your dashboard anything. Enabling that voice first analytics is of course the next big thing. And the second one is predictive analyze. Today your NLI, right, it is actually getting back with an answer to your exact question. But imagine your NLI, like your AI bots, telling you that, okay, hey, vendor manager, if you are not taking an action or doing something with this customer A, B, C, they are going to go out of your business. So it should actually predict based on based on the customer journey, like what customer has been trying to do over the last period of time, and based on that, it should be able to predict and tell you, hey, you need to act on these customers or they're going out. And of course, the last but not least is multimodal queries. Today we are doing a great job with text analytics, but how about like graphs, images, like PDFs, social media data, whatnot, like both structured and unstructured data. How can you do a best job with combining both structured and unstructured data? That is what I think the future is like future is resolving now. And it gives more context and more insight to the like outputs actually. Yeah. So these capabilities will define the next generation of analytics platforms. So we are heading towards a world where everyone in the org, not just the analysts, can engage with data in real time. So conversations and not clicks will become the norm. Like I'm pretty sure, because even within my org, we have already built multiple, RAG frameworks and enabled conversational, like AI. That's what is going to be a normal in the future. I mean, not in the future, it's already happening now, and it's going to become a norm, yeah, in most of the enterprises. Yeah. And this doesn't eliminate an analyst role or a BIE role. The analyst role will simply evolve from report builders to like strategic advisors. So today we are spending so much time on writing SQL. Rather, you should be spending time on, once the data is generated, like what kind of strategy you need to build on the data. So that is the paradigm shift on how business decisions are made. Like it could be more faster, more inclusive, and more data driven. And moving on to the last slide, yeah, of course, like a call for action. Like what can you do about this? If you want to build something related to conversational AI, you should always start small, like pilot with a single team or a single data set, because as I said, LLMs, right, if not refined properly or if not trained properly, they're not going to, like generate you the right results. And more the data, they can hallucinate a lot. And of course, LLMs are not great with mathematical operations, you should always it's always best to like start small, and like ensure your embedding models, your like retrievals or your vector DB, and your knowledge base, like the data store, they're all designed accurately, like properly, in order to drive the action that the end user is intended for. And pick high impact business use cases. Like just pick whatever can create a really high impact. Say for example, in your company, there are thousands of tickets that are being generated, which can be resolved following by a simple SOP. In that case, you should automate those things. That will have a high impact, and then build trust with explainability. And no more late nights wrestling with SQL, and let's AI take all the grunt work and humans can do the thinking. So that's what is call for action. And thanks for your time. I hope this session gave you a fresh perspective on how we can think about rethink BI using conversational, like intelligence. And I'm happy to take any questions now. Let me see. Yeah. There's a question about what's difference between generative AI and conversational AI. There is no big difference actually. So generative AI is same as conversational AI. Yeah, it's just generative AI is a part of this whole RAG framework, and this whole framework we are calling it as a conversational AI bot. Yeah. And how large of computational power is required in building and maintenance of such AI? As I said, people have a lot of wrong opinions about this. They estimate, okay, yeah, it would take so much, but no, it can take actually so little. Always start with small, like just try to like spin up a bedrock instance from AWS cloud, and it could be very small. You doesn't require like a huge computational power, and it all depends on how big your data set is also, right? Like how big your vector DB is going to be. I think always piloting with a small data set and one high impact use case is the best way to like go with this. And once you start building it, you will understand, like, okay, hey, how do you optimize the computation power and whatnot? Yeah. So the conversational AI is started in an LI like BI. Oh yes, of course. Like within Amazon, yes, I personally, my team has built multiple, like conversational AI bots uh, within the business intelligence field. Of course, there are so many challenges. Like it's not that easy for LLMs to, write a SQL query, execute that on like any database that is available, and then generate the output, and then like from that output, it has to again generate insights. This whole thing, in order to this whole thing to happen on fly, it takes so much of like modeling. But that is happening already. Yeah. LLM work upon embedded data. Yeah, analyze, right? The analyze can convert your embedded data into into like a user understandable language. So that's where an NLI would come into picture. Cool. I think we are already like out of time. I don't want to like take others' time. So if there are no more questions, or if you still have any questions, feel free to like reach me out on LinkedIn. Happy to like answer, provide any guidance there. Otherwise, yeah. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and I hope you all have enjoyed the session. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah. Hello. Okay. Good evening. I'm Aditya. I'm working as a DevOps engineer at Hackathon, and I have around 2 years of experience in DevOps. I'm interested in AI, ML, DevOps, cybersecurity, open source. So today we are gonna look at some of the underrated tools, basically, which most of the people won't be knowing about in both the DevOps and the cybersecurity fields. Yeah. So hopefully my screen will be visible and I will answer all the doubts in the end or in between if I see in between. So, and we'll be seeing some live demos as well. So, yeah, so today's topic will be the underrated tools, that is, the less known tools in the field of DevOps and cybersecurity. So, some of them are hidden gems for me as well because I have myself used it. So before we start with the tools, let us understand what is DevOps. DevOps is like kind of the hybrid of development as well as operations. That is, a person who's a DevOps engineer, he develops as well as he looks after the operations, that is monitoring and other stuff. So it involves three main principles. One is automation. So the main goal of a DevOps engineer is to automate the infrastructure as much as possible and automate deployments like using tools like Jenkins and monitoring tasks using tools like Prometheus, Grafana, and speed. So the second principle is speed. Even though we shouldn't, ignore the quality. Quality is important as well, but we shouldn't be too much slow as well because in customers scenarios they require stuff which is like highly urgent and they want it to be done as soon as possible. But we should ensure it is safe and the quality is not compromised. The third thing is collaboration. So sometimes for doing the DevOps stuff, both you can the team consists of both developers as well as people who are involved in operations side of the workflows. So this makes it more and more seamless. So our first tool which we'll be seeing is Dagger. It is a Python library actually rather than a command line tool. Uh, and it is for making a pipeline workflows easy. So it is portable, that is you can sit anywhere and run pipelines, and it is automated using the cloud native technology, which is the CNCF technology. It is vendor neutral, that is the API is universal. So you don't have different vendors distributing different versions of the APIs. You have a single person doing that. The third advantage is performance. So it delivers like the basically what your goal, it will be done in 10x speed. And rather than traditional pipelines, for example, you take a GitHub workflow or you take a Jenkins workflow, they take time. The performance is good, I agree with that, but they take a bit of time. This does this faster because it makes it is user friendly, more user friendly and seamless. And the use cases for this will be you can build, you can test, you can deploy multi-platform web apps in this. And you can use it is in Python, it is easily importable, it is easily codable. I'll show the code in the later. The next tool which we'll be looking after is Cilium Tetragon. It's a combination of two uh, small tools which combine to give a powerful single tool which is really powerful. And BPF stands for Bloom filter, Bloom based filter, which used by penetration testers to which is used by penetration testers. The main advantage it consists of two tools, as I said, Cilium and Tetragon. Cilium is based on cloud native networking, and it has advanced security. The Tetragon side is more for monitoring and logging. So that filter is basically used for zero overhead monitoring, and it filters even at the kernel level. That is, your terminal is basically a kernel loaded onto a shell, and it is highly secure because it blocks malicious network activity. It immediately notifies you as well, and it is best used in Kubernetes cluster. Kubernetes is basically like kind of a containerized stuff, but you can run multiple containers at the same time. Unlike Docker, which you have to run one at a time. I mean, in the sense you can run multiple, but you have to run that command twice for creating those containers. Kubernetes, you can create any number using this one command. OpenObserve. So OpenObserve is like kind of monitoring the logs, kind of making charts, and it is open source and it does not cost anything at all. You have the GitHub repository, have its documentation, which you can read and implement it like right now. So it has high compression. Its compression is very high. So you get like kind of it can compress a huge data into small and ensure that the important parts are still there. And it can ingest large amounts of data without any paying too much for that. It can ingest large amount of data. It can handle logs. You can check the traces of your packets where it is coming from using that, kind of like your packet tracer, but a more advanced version, you can say. Cost efficiency, so uh, it is free majority of the time. There is an enterprise version which for business people, I mean the companies, I mean. So for them, they can get it at a cheaper price, the enterprise version. And it can be put in any application to monitor any application. You can get any, if anyone tries to hack it, or if anyone tries, if any kind of incident is happened, data loss has happened, or something is not right in the data which it is getting, you can get to know why, where, how, and what is the root of that entire problem. Infra. So it is like kind of a CLI for a cloud kind of infrastructure in a CLI form. So you can manage your cloud, which is AWS and all. You can manage using this. You manage your Kubernetes clusters, and you can manage any software as I mean any SaaS platforms with just one binary, that is one small installation. I'll be showcasing everything in a short while. And its configuration is simple, which can be either a YAML file, which we use for most of the tools in DevOps and cybersecurity, or it can be a CUE file as well, another form like a YAML. And it is flexible. That is, you can integrate it with any platform. There is not that any cloud platform specifically. It doesn't have that kind of restrictions, unlike some of the tools. So most of you would know about, sorry about that. Yeah. So most of you would know about Helm. It's kind of a package manager for Kubernetes related environments, and also a kind of analyzing charts. You can make charts using that. So Helm file, what it does is, if you use Helm only, you will get like you can use only one chart at a time. But with Helm file, you can manage multiple charts in the same environment, and it is specifically more towards the Docker and Kubernetes side. So its advantages is it is declarative. That is, you have simple files where you're declaring like for a like you can declare what you want, what charts you want to manage. You can synchronize. That is, you can uh, release multiple versions, and it will manage that for you. It will do the version tagging. You can help with the version tagging. You can help checking, testing with the staging and production side as well. And it is simple, so it reduces complexity. Using this, the complexity of deploying a certain app is reduced by 50%. And you best example of this, you can deploy applications like what my company does. We have a kind of a software which we deploy to the client side, so we can deploy it safely across multiple clusters at the same time. Clusters is basically kind of a group of you can say containers. A container is basically like kind of, you have heard about chip containers. So these are some of the other tools. I'll showcase these as well. So Terramate is basically for Terraform. Like you have Jenkins for automating Docker and Kubernetes. You have Terramate for automating the job of Terraform. That is like just by setting up one small file, you can run an entire Terraform job there. And if you make any changes, for example, if you integrate it with GitHub, if you make any change in your GitHub, it detects similar to Jenkins. Steam pipe is this is basically the retrieval side where you will use SQL like syntax. It's almost the same. And the steam pipe, it basically catches live data. With that, with the SQL, for example, if any incident has happened or a cybersecurity incident to be specific, where your data has been lost or it has been taken away by someone, you can use this to know exactly what has happened. That is, you can go through the logs. You can go through the logs and check what exactly is the issue, where what time it has gone down or what time the data has been lost, and what was the process is running at that time. Kind of like BigQuery in Google Cloud. Cosine is like you have a container image. So in Docker, before you create a container, you need something called as a predefined image, which has all your all the app files, which is put into one kind of folder like thing, and you upload it to kind of a registry, which that is basically registered with Docker. So once that image, you can, if you download, to verify if it is authentic, you can use cosine. So what cosine basically does is, it is like kind of digitally signing your container image to make sure that it is authentic. The people who are receiving image, or who are using your Docker image, is safe, and it is authentic, and it is from the person who has made it itself. Kind of an authentication kind of thing, and it's not like kind of a malware infested one. And you have the default. It is like kind of GitHub code spaces, an alternative for that, an open source one, and it is much faster. And you can run multiple environments in this, not only just one. And it is like a really a boon for and developers. You have one more tool which is called as Waypoint. So this is basically for the version side, like you are releasing different versions, and it is getting difficult to manage. So Waypoint does that, and it ensures it is safe. It can deploy if you configure it to. It can streamline the build to make it more and more safe to the users. And it takes care of the release workflow as well. Like after you release the version, it takes care that this version was released. You have the information about that. You can roll back if there is any issues with the new versions. So to the cybersecurity side, so basically let us understand what is cybersecurity before diving into the tools in cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is basically you're protecting uh, the stuff which is cyber stuff, or in the sense you can say online files, folders, which are really important, which might be important to your company, which if lost can cause losses in terms of crores, millions, billions. that is what is, protecting these is called as cyber security. That is protecting them from potential hackers. And you have three types, I mean, kind of three kinds of cyber security out here, which is adaptive defense. So first thing is, as you know, hackers, they evolve literally every minute. You have threats and you have vulnerabilities will be like kind of new kinds will come literally every minute, every second. So we have to keep on updating, as a cybersecurity professional. We have to keep updating our methods of uh, keeping our files, or the company's files safe from people, or from wrong hands basically. And you have incident response. Suppose an incident that is hacking happens, we have to know how it happened, from where did it happen, the source, and we have to have that knowledge to manage these kind of incidents so that it doesn't happen in the future. We cannot keep 100% safe. I agree with that, but at least majority of the time you have to keep it safe. Majority you have to keep it safe, and we have to continuously monitor whatever we have deployed in the client side as well, because the hacker can use the client side as well for getting all our code, and he can ask money for that. You can stop the services everywhere. So you have dashboards for that, which we can check each and every packet, each and every transaction which is happening, each and every packet which is going uh, uh, from the customer to us, or from us, uh, employees to customers. So our first tool which we'll be seeing is Surikata. I know most of you might have heard of this, but this is one of the best in terms of threat for checking threats. It can detect it early and immediately notify the person who is taking care of, checking all the threats, or whose notification it is going to. So it monitors the traffic. Uh, Network traffic is a continuous one. It keeps on happening as long as you are connected to the internet. And once all kinds of network traffic like HTTP, you have HTTPS, you have UDP, TCP, all those things it monitors. And if it finds anything suspicious that someone is trying to do a DOS, or a denial of service basically, and if they are trying to hack into your system, it will notify the first if you have deployed it in your system and configured it to check the kind of traffic which you want. For example, in sometimes you can say in your office applications, basically, uh, they'll check for more of the HTTP and HTTPS, because that's the easiest way of attacking system. And you have a rule-based system. You have uh, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems. You can combine that and put that, which is like with advanced stuff. And there is a rule set which is defined beforehand. You can use that. You can modify it as per your requirements as well. Surikata is open source, so you can download it for free. And you have it also helps in prevention. So it's kind of acts like a firewall and blocks attacks, and it is active all the time, so that critical infrastructures like the source codes are not stolen, and uh, mm, losses shouldn't happen to the company. The next tool which we'll be seeing is Arkime. Arkime is like kind of network analyzing system which we can use for doing in-depth analysis. It catches each and every single packet, which we called as packet capture, which in short we call as PCAP. And the main advantage of it is it can store up to 10 GB, uh, up to 10 GB of packets. Because see, storing packets is not an easy job, because there is a packet just being transferred every millisecond. So up to 10 GB at a time it can store, and you can check that And most of the security analysts use Archimate, and it is free and it enhances the detection of the threats, and monitoring is enhanced and it is easier. It is kind of like you can say a Wireshark, not exactly, but kind of. So OS query. So this is like kind of again the retrieval side. You have a kind of SQL like interface. Syntax there might be a little bit of different, and you can check with the kind of SQL thing, SQL statements. You can use that to check the network, what is happening in the network traffics, what kind I'm getting frequently, if there is any malicious. So you can check that. And the advantage of this is it runs on Linux, it runs on Mac, it can run on Windows, which makes it versatile platform or broad platform you can say. And it is used for mainly for incident response. That is, if your gets hacked, you can use it for recovery, as well as you can keep a check on the threats which might be on your system. It keeps like kind of an antivirus kind of thing. And if it finds any kind of anomaly, and it also notifies if you have integrated it with an email, you get an email immediately, like within milliseconds or seconds, immediately after that, if anything is found malicious. So this is Falco. This was developed by Cloud Native guys, CNCF, and it is basically for runtime security. That is basically real live data security. It checks real time. It checks. It is active always, and basically it is used more for Kubernetes side. That is the Kubernetes threat engine, and it detects, basically it's used for detecting any malicious activity happening in your system, basically the environment which you configure it to. You have another advantage you have of this is syscall, that is system call and event rules. So not only high level, but it monitors low level system calls as well. That is, it might not be that important, but still it can be used for that methods can be used for hacking, and it checks whether it's something fishy is going on. And it is an open source and it is by CNCF, which is a really trusted organization. So it is an open source CNCF project, which is driven by the CNCF community guys who are a part of that. And they are really strict about the people who are contributing to that. They don't tolerate any kind of, you know, goofiness happening in that. And another advantage is if there is any threat in your container which is running, you immediately get an notification. If any kind of threat or any kind of policy breach has happened, which you have defined. So, uh, so you will get an alert immediately. You can, if you integrate the email as well, as you can see in the image here, it will immediately email you as well. Vastia Tour, it is for kind of mixes AI as a little bit of AI as well, and it is mainly used for threat hunting, and it is basically during the input output systems, input output center, that is like your kind of CPU, wherever input and output happens. It can be your printers, it can be your CPUs, it can be your keyboard. So it checks with, basically you can hack a printer as well, right? So it's with that. And the other advantage is, for threat hunting, you need to research all the network traffic, which is a tedious task, and all the tedious task it is automated in this, so that it can investigate. I mean, you can investigate that threats at a faster speed. The next tool we'll be seeing is Trivy. So Trivy is basically a vulnerability scanner, kind of like a you can say Wireshark kind of thing. So it can do three things. It is best for that. The first one is container image scanning. So you, as I said, you have made your app into a kind of, you can consider a shipping container. You have put all your goods inside that. basically packaging that you have an image of that, which can transport it to any client side and install that the app. So it checks the packages and the dependencies which we include in the app for any kind of vulnerabilities, because the packages might be attacked as well. The second side will be seeing on file system and git scan. So even your file systems which you have in your systems, it can scan that. Even it can scan your GitHub repositories if it has been compromised. And another feature of this is the CI/CD integration. You can build pipelines as well using this, and it is a continuous delivery pipeline. That is, as and when you update it, it has the Jenkins-like features as well. So it's like kind of a combination of Jenkins, GitHub, and Wireshark. The next tool is Turn. So this is specifically towards Kubernetes pods. The container in Kubernetes is called as a Kubernetes pod, which we check for. So it takes the what it does is Stern does is it analyzes the logs from the pods. So whatever processes is running in the pods, it will get logged in the system syslog. So it checks that logs for seeing if there is any malicious, or if kind of you can debug as well, check for bugs as well using this in the application side of things in microservice environments like Kubernetes. Cosec is, as the name suggests, it is for basically apps built using Go language, specifically for Go language. So it can analyze your Go code. It detects if there is any open vulnerabilities which a hacker can use to break into the system, and also used for code safety. And it can be integrated into development workflows which involves Go language. MITM proxy. So MITM proxy is used basically for uh, the transport layer security. TLS means transport layer security. So the transport layer security, MITM proxy basically it's for proxying the transport layer service. Basically, hackers what they do, they use your TLS. I'll refer to transport layer security as TLS in this entire time. So they hack mostly using the TLS. So you can make a proxy out of that, and uh, it has a UI, basically a web UI like you can see in Grafana, and you have Python scripting as well, which is which helps much, and it is ideal for security testing and debugging. So kind of like a code space as well, MITM proxy, and yeah. So that's it about the presentation. We'll be seeing the demos right now. I have made, where is the demo steps? Yeah. I'll be sharing this text file as well so that you guys can try it out. But ensure that when you're trying all this out, you're not doing it on your office laptop or your company laptop. Mine, I am not trying all of them. I'll just explain how it works. I won't run all of them because of my company policies as well. So I don't want to break any one of them. So we'll start with Dagger. So we have something called as pip install, pip 3, because now we have Python 3. So as you can see, mine is a transparent terminal. So if I do that, it will give me an error because I should do it as sudo apt install Python 3 Dagger, and it asks for my password as I'm using sudo. Okay. Uh, I have some issue with my environment. Mm, it's supposed to do that. 5 and 3. Okay, so basically for installing Dagger, I have configured my environment as per what I have been told to. So that is causing some issues. So after that, you can create a sample pipeline, which is basically a Python code here. You are importing Dagger here, and this is the main function. Async means asynchronous, and Dagger connection. This is for initializing connection, and you have a config file when you install Dagger. So it takes that config file, and you define the source directory. Now I have defined this as the current directory which I'm working on, which I want to check my current directory using Dagger. And this is the image which kind of you can say a virtual environment. And I want the container with my Python version as 3.9. You can set it accordingly. You can use the source directory which I have defined here. And with the working directory as well as what we have defined as the source. And you are executing a command called as pip install requirements.txt for basically, you have if you for your app you will have a requirements.txt, that is it has to be there for each and every app which is defined in a large scale, and then you run the app, and then once you publish that app, it will return that, and it will monitor that. Dagger will monitor that, and for running the pipeline you can run using the typical Python command, which is python pipeline.py. So this is the for the first one. For the second, we have something called as Cilium Tetragon demo. So it can be added using the helm. Let me run and check this. Hopefully this runs. Okay. Sudo apt install helm. Okay, I want to do it with snap. It's not there in apt. So like kind of you have Node.js, you have that kind of npm, right? So you have different types of packages in Linux environment as well. You can use it with snap, you can use it with this thing apt as well. So as you can see, it is downloading. uh, okay, this is for helm. With using helm, I'll install the this thing, which is that Cilium. As I said, it is a combination of two, Cilium and Tetragon. So it is downloading all the required packages. It'll take a bit of time. After that, you can do your helm, and it will add that Cilium has been added. So you can now I can now use Cilium as well. And you have one more. Now since I've added it, I'll install it in my system. Just a minute, let me copy it properly. Okay. So yes, since there is a VPN, so it is not allowing. And for installing, you have something called as kubectl if you are using Kubernetes. It is like Kubernetes control. So for applying that tetragon, that is for checking. Now you can simulate. This is a YAML file. This is how a YAML file looks like. You can name it whatever you want, and you can apply that. I have named it as test pod. So test pod YAML contains this. What is this? First, the API version. This is my version 1. So it will be version 1, which I'm deploying right now. What is the type of container I'm deploying? It is pod. And the metadata, it will just ask the name of the pod, which is test pod. And what containers. So after you inside a pod, you have to run some. You can run like five, six containers at a time. I'm just defining it for one, which is called as test container. And BusyBox is a kind of an image which is registered with Docker registry and which is free to use for testing purposes. And your command you have is who am I. So if a hacker, if he wants to gain access to your system, you can say a noob guy. He will first do who am I to see which user he has hacked into. And if you're not the one doing that, and if someone else is doing that inside your system via SSH, uh, it will notify that. So to check that, to simulate that, basically, I have made this code. Now we are applying the simulation file, and you will be checking since I've already added tetragon here to my container. You can check the container logs, I mean the tetragon logs. Okay, so tetragon, when it raises your notifications, you can check using the logs. It will raise directly into the container logs, and you are specifying here as tetragon. The next tool which we saw was OpenObserve. So again, it is kind of in a Kubernetes environment. So I am installing the OpenObserve here, and I am installing FluentBit. FluentBit is just to check for the simulation purpose. We will be using FluentBit to test out how OpenObserve works. So you are adding the repository first. Whenever in Linux environments, in packages involving apt and snap, they have a GitHub repo which is basically open source. So you have to add that into your code base inside your system, and then you can install it. You cannot directly install that. After installing the Fluent bit, I will go for this is another YAML file. Uh, Basically the configuration file actually of the this thing, which is that OpenObserve. So here you have four sections basically, which is service. That is what service, what is the input you're giving, what you want to filter, what should be your output. So inside the service, daemon is basically processes which run in the background. So that is you won't be able to see it running, but it is running in the background. So that is off here, and we want log level. We want it to be informative. We want to see the logs of like detailed logs. Inside the input, I have given a random name as tail. I have given the path to the log file where it has to uh, enter the logs. And I want logs with a tag called as cube.start. Anything which has starting with cube, I want such kind of logs to be entered inside the log file. That is where you are specifying inside the filter as well. You can give any random name. I've given it as Kubernetes because it is running in Kubernetes containers. And you have something called as cube star. So we have to match. If it matches this format, this is a regular expression or basically rejects in machine learning terms. So with this, you can match the logs which has cube star and what should be your output. Name, I have kept it as HTTP. You can keep it as a HTTPS as well. Match what I'm matching, anything with name HTTP, and it has this URL. And host, that is basically I'm sending the data to the UI, which is OpenObserve. I'm configuring the port as 5080 here. You can make it 8080 as well, which is the recommended one. And transport layer security, this should always be on so that the whatever data you're transforming is safe and it doesn't land in wrong hands. Format will always be in JSON. If people are familiar with JSON, it's like kind of a structured kind of thing which involves curly braces and all. And you are you need the timestamp as well, because every log you're entering, you have to know at what time it has been, right? That one. You have a date format. There are different date format. I'm using Indian Standard ISO format. And you have your user details as well. You can put your username and user password out here for the HTTP side. After that, you can forward your UI to the different port which you can access. So once you run this, you can go to localhost 8080 and you'll be able to see your JSON. And the next tool is infra. So this is how curl is basically used for kind of getting from publicly available packages and ensure. That is why I'm using an SSL here to check, to make it secure, to ensure it is secure and it checks all the certificates and all. If you are familiar with SSL certificates, basically checking sites service kind of thing. After I do that, I log into infra. Kind of you have a registry, you are entering into the registry and you're adding your host. In this case, you can add your local host itself for just testing purpose. And then after that, you are using infra to SSH into your host. You need a virtual machine for that. I don't have access to that right now. Mainly, it is for that. Mm, so that's it about infra. Next will be for Helm file. Helm file. Yeah, so again, you can use the curl command for adding the Helm file. And this chmod plus x, what it does is you're basically giving it executing permissions. Plus x stands for executing. That is, you can execute the file. You can run the file basically. For running the file is plus x. After that, I am moving it to the designated place where the this is the default directory where we have to keep all this. Then you're creating a Helm file that is kind of a YAML file here. Yeah. So with in this YAML file, we have something called as releases, and inside release, if you have, kind of using two apps. I want to monitor two apps here, so I keep the name as app one, and it is related to Nginx. Nginx is like the default for testing. You have another app which uses Redis environment. And then I'm applying it just like Kubernetes apply. You have Helm file apply. The next tool is Terraform. I mean, sorry, Terramate. So you can install Terramate using Go install. It is kind of Go package, kind of a package in Go. So you can install using the Go, and you can just like Terraform, you can use Terraform in it. You have Terramate in it, which initializes the Terramate platform, and then you can run your Terraform jobs inside that. The next we'll be seeing is this thing, Steam Pipe. So as I said, Steam Pipe is basically kind of SQL kind of thing. So you can install it using Brew, and this is the kind of query you have. You have basically it's like SQL, but you have the commands before as well. You have the Steam Pipe, uh, which is referring to the Steam Pipe package query, which is referring to the job, that is you want to query the data, and what data you want, you can use it kind of the SQL like format, that is select star from AWS bucket. So this is an AWS bucket and you're selecting everything from that. The other one is cosine. This is again inside a Go package. You can install it using this command, and you can use any kind of container image which you can use to sign it. So it creates a kind of key and it matches it with whenever you install it in the client, it matches it with the key, and if it is proper, then only it installs. Now, devpod, as I said, is like a code space, and you can use install it using curl command. And once you add the repository, you can directly install it, and directly if you run devpod up, your devpod instance is running, and your code space is basically ready to use. The next we'll be seeing is waypoint. So you can install your waypoint using the curl command. You can add the repository as well using the HashiCorp1 link. And then as usual, you update your code base and then install waypoint. So once waypoint is installed, you can start it up like how Terraform command. It is similar to the Terraform commands, which is waypoint init and waypoint up. So with that, we'll move on to the cybersecurity tools. And before that, until now, you guys have any doubts until now? Okay, Dhruva asks, sir, it is a combination of two softwares which work together, or we have to use it on a single code one by one? I guess you are referring to CDM Tetragon. So it's actually the software is different, but you can install it all together and integrate it together to work as one. And it is more powerful when combined rather than single. So any other doubts you guys have? Okay, then I will continue with the cybersecurity tools and answer the rest of the questions. Yeah, so in the cybersecurity side, the first tool we'll be looking at is Surikata. So Surikata is like a threat detection tool. Uh, you can install it using sudo apt install surikata-y, and you can download a PCAP from a trusted site like Malware Researchers. So you can go inside that and take this thing. What is that? You can take a payload from that or a packet capture from that, and you can analyze that just for to see how it works. So then we'll be no, you can simulate an attack using TCP replay. So we'll be using that, and we'll be passing. We'll be running Surikata on that on the PCAP file, and we'll be referencing your file here. So once your Surikata is set up, you can check for the alerts uh, via the TCP replay. And once it is running, you will get your Surikata alerts in this. And you have CyberChef. CyberChef is basically a GitHub based tool. So I have it open here. So it's somewhat like this. You have your input. You can select the operation you want. For example, I want to decode. It is basically an encryption and decryption tool, which is used for encrypting and decrypting payloads to see if anyone is trying to access any of the files unauthorized, or they are not authorized to do so. So uh, you can decrypt it to base 64. You can uh, encrypt it to base 64, and others like from hex. You have hex dump. You have URL decode. You have regex here. You have entropy, fork, magic, format, arithmetic, language. Many options are there which you can select. That you can put your payload in the input section, and you can click on bake, and you will get your decrypted output here. And that is how CyberChef used, and it is a free tool in GitHub. I'll send this link as well. It will be in the same text file as well. I'll share the PPT and text file as well. The next one being uh, where was I? Archime. So Archime, you can use no directly clone the repository. You can go to the folder called after you clone it. You can go inside it and you can run the setup. There is a file called as dot slash I mean mycom.sh which you can run, and it will install everything, all the dependencies and stuff. And then later, using the same file, you can go give the command as start, that is to start the service. So it acts like kind of Wireshark. It analyzes your network traffic and all. The next one is OS query. OS query you can easily install using the apt package. Once you install that, you can just type the name, that is OS query I, to start it. And you have a query, example query, which I've pasted here. It is similar, very similar to the SQL syntax. Might be some small changes might be there in the syntax, but almost similar to that. Next, we'll be looking at Falco. So, uh, for installing Falco, we can use the Helm repo. As I said, Falco is to Kubernetes Docker environments, and Helm is the package manager for that. So you can use Helm to add the repository first, then update the repository base, and then install it. And I have made one simulation YAML as well, which you guys can use for testing out Falco. So again, you have the version, you have the pod, and you have the name here. Till the image it is same, but you have your command which will be different here. We are checking the host name here and we are trying to create a file with that, access the file basically, which is a very sensitive file. Host name is a very sensitive file. And if something gets compromised there, your entire system is hit. And you have volume mount. So you have a mount path, for example, a kind of for storage purposes, and you have a name called as host root. After that, you are defining the volumes here. That is the what you're mounting, and you have a path for that. And then using Kubernetes, you're applying that, and you can set the logs for Falco logs. Basically, in the Falco logs, you will be able to see the logs related to whoever is accessing the host name right here. And we are at Rastria 2R. So for that, uh, you can use GitHub. You can directly clone the repository for that, and you can install the requirements file. There are some dependencies for this, and you can run the scan to the file which you want to scan. And if there is any rules which you have defined, which you can also define, you can give the part to that as well. So this is about Rastria 2R. Next will be on Trivi. So you can install it using the apt package. And I am giving a sample image here, which is Nginx latest. You have to pull the image before you give it. Or if you have an existing image, you can test it on that. And it will monitor all the processes happening. If anything malicious, you'll get a notification. The next will be going towards turn. So you have you can use it with the Go language or the Go package. And once you get that, you can check the logs by using Stern and your admin. And for GoSec, this is specifically for Go environment. You can install it using Go, and you can run it directly using GoSec with the directory which you want to run it on. Entire directory you can run it on at a time. And I guess last but not the least, MITM proxy. So again, you can use the apt package to install MIT proxy, and just running MIT proxy will run it. So yeah, that's all for today. Until now, you guys have any kind of questions? Anyone has any questions until now? Okay then. Uh, I guess there are no questions. So yeah, that's it for today. I hope you guys gained some knowledge and you guys have understood a thing or two. And if you still have any kind of doubts, you can contact me via my LinkedIn, which I'll be sharing in the chat box. It is first stop sharing. 1 minute.